Ask that you take your seats, please, and please silence any cell phones or electronic devices.
Yeah, right. Oh no, that won't work. Then we won't hear anything.
Welcome to the Sunday service of the United Universalist Fellowship of Northfield. My name is Wyman Weinbeck, and my wife Susie and I have been part of this UUFN family for about 4.5 years. UUFN is an exclusive community that nurtures spiritual and intellectual growth and fosters ethical and social responsibility. I want to extend a warm welcome today to everyone here in the sanctuary and all those on Zoom. And we are mindful that we gather today with different needs. Whatever brings you here, you are invited to come as you are, and please take what feeds you. If you are a visitor, either in person or online, we are glad you are with us, and we invite you to stay after the service to get acquainted. We welcome your questions and look forward to getting to know you. We also invite you to our newcomer gathering on March 4th, a time to socialize and to get to know both other newcomers and longer-term members. We'll gather at 1 o'clock and childcare is provided. Those who are interested in becoming members of UUFN are encouraged to come an hour earlier on the 4th to join Reverend Sarah for our meeting of membership class. And a few additional announcements. Everyone is invited to join Reverend Sarah and Diana McLean, our Director of Family Ministries, on Thursday, March 2nd, for our third and final Beyond Welcome Reflection. Our focus will be on creating a multi-generational community and the future of our faith. We'll meet at 7:00 p.m. on Zoom. If you're curious about what religious education might look like in the future at UUFN, please join us. Next Sunday, Reverend Sarah will present our second annual question box service. During this service, she will take your questions and answer them off the top of her head and from the bottom of her heart. Bring your questions about Unitarian Universalism, theology, spirituality, and more as we co-create the service together in real time. And again, welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Northfield. Thank you, Ella. So a kindergarten teacher was observing her classroom as the children drew pictures. The teacher would occasionally walk around and look at each child's photo or artwork. And as she approached one little girl who was working especially hard, she asked what the drawing was. Little girl replies, "I'm drawing God." "But sweetie," the teacher replied, "no one actually knows what God looks like." And the little girl continues drawing and automatically looks up and says, "Well, they certainly will in a minute." Okay, so you knew this service is to be about humor and laughter, so you were expecting a joke, right? And we figured we should get that out of the way up front. And why not indulge in some laughter at church and embrace this treasure that humankind alone can experience? According to Margaret Mead, laughter is humankind's most distinctive emotional experience. Humans share their capacity for love and hate, anger and fear, loyalty and grief with other living creatures. But humor, which has an intellectual as well as an emotional element, belongs to humans. And what a gift it is. Humor lights our burdens and inspires hope. We need humor in these troubled times, and to share laughter is to truly connect with one another. I never know how hard to hit that thing. Oh, the flaming chalice is the symbol of Unitarian Universalism. Each Sunday when we gather, we bring this symbol to life together. Its flame illuminates this moment, calling our attention to the path of hope and justice. Please join me in speaking the words in your order of service and on the screen as we light the chalice, the symbol of our faith. Let us open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Let us open our minds to learn what is true. And let us open our hearts to love one another. And please rise in body or spirit and join in singing verses 1 and 4 of We Laugh, We Cry, which is on page 354 and also shown on the screen. We pause in this moment to come fully into each other's presence and into the presence of the greater love that lives within us and among us. Allow yourself an unhurried, unclenched breath. Soften your gaze or close your eyes. Relax your shoulders and let your heart catch up with you. What is on your heart today? Welcome it. Honor it. All of you who are here are welcome here. Whatever you are holding, you are not holding it alone. This sacred space we create together is strong enough to hold it all. In the presence of this greater love, we use our chalice flame to light our candles of community. We light our first candle as a blessing for the wider world. Today, we call to mind and celebrate the creativity, the resilience, and brilliance throughout Black history during this Black History Month. And we light our next candle for the people of Ukraine as they observe the 1-year anniversary of the Russian invasion of their country, and who continue to live with the constant fear and horror and loss of lives that is war. And we offer up a sorrow for how slow things change, joyful that things are changing. And from carols, and we light another candle in honor of the sorrows and hardships we might be carrying. Brenda shares, I would like to have a candle of concern for Bill Jokla and Paul Krause in honor of the joys and sorrows we carry in our hearts, but have not been spoken aloud. And we move into a time of silence. May the truth of your heart be reflected in these flames. Excuse me. Blessed be and amen. We will now give and receive an offering for the support of this religious community and its work in the world. This month's Share the Plate recipient is BLUU, Black Lives of Unitarian Universalism. As a national ministry for and by Black identified Unitarian Universalists, Black Lives UU is one of the most exciting and visionary movements within our denomination. BLUU is committed to expanding the power and capacity of Black UUs within Unitarian Universalism, providing support, information, and resources for Black Unitarian Universalists, and justice making and liberation for Black people through our faith. You may contribute by putting cash or check made out to UUFN with offering basket on the memo line in the basket. Or you may contribute offline by going to our website, uunorthfield.org, clicking on the yellow donate button on the right-hand column, and then selecting share the plate. You are invited to give generously and joyfully as you are willing and able, and in the spirit, we now gratefully accept the offering. Thank you, Ella. Our reading today is from the Quran. They deserve paradise who make their companions laugh.
Something strange was going on in the First United Methodist Church of Burlington, Iowa, not so many years ago. If you were to step through the doors into the room where the youth group was meeting at that time, you would have seen some pretty peculiar sights. For starters, you would notice that the youth leaders were dressed really strangely, in a manner totally alien to the trends of the time. But odder still was that the teenagers were seeking out these leaders for fashion advice. You might also discover that these dedicated leaders had some mighty bizarre names. Names like Colonel Phoenix, Bobo, Fizzy, to name a few. If that sounds funny, that's great. It was meant to be. These people are clowns. The term clown ministry probably originated in this country in the late 60s by Floyd Schaefer, a Lutheran minister otherwise known as Soko Taco. The idea spread slowly at first, but in the following years, clown ministry troops began springing up in all parts of the country. Clown ministry began at Burlington First UMC at a time when the youth program was in a serious state of flux. The very dynamic and much loved youth director had recently moved away, and the leaders were struggling to find ways to keep the youth involved. The hardest part was in coming up with activities the kids would find exciting and appealing. The idea of clown ministry was suggested by one of the youth leaders, a father of two who had done some clowning in earlier years. The goal, he pointed out, would be to involve our youth in activities that built fellowship, provided service to others, and offered an opportunity for spiritual growth. Clown ministry seemed to offer all this and more. But what about youth appeal? Would this be yet another plan that would be canceled due to lack of interest? There was only one way to find out: send in the clowns. And as you will see, Colonel Phoenix the Clown, otherwise known as, you probably figured this out, my husband, the man who had pitched the idea of clown ministry to our group. So Colonel Phoenix made an appearance at our youth group rally. He wandered in unexpectedly in a tattered jacket, suspenders, and striped socks. He had a 5 o'clock shadow, sad eyes, and a big red nose. Without a word, he soon had the attention of all. He did a little sight magic, presented a delightful short performance in mime about sharing love. And then, with a sad little wave, he shuffled out, leaving behind an enchanted audience. The pastor then explained that Colonel Phoenix would be heading up a new ministry in our church, and all who are interested in being a clown should sign up. Well, the sign-up table was instantly surrounded. When the rally ended, the list included the names of almost all of the youngsters present. Thus, Clowns for Christ, or KFC, as the troop was later named, was born.
As clowns, we hope to share the love and live the spirit of caring and giving we had learned about in the stories of Jesus. Our mission was simply to bring joy into the lives of others. Not all congregations are open to an idea as unconventional as clowns in church, though as you'll see, not all ministry needs to take place in the church. And our pastor recommended a gentle way to ease our membership into the worship service, the children's lesson. In preparation, we held a weekend-long clown camp with lessons on such things as applying makeup and assembling an outfit. And remember the mention of kids asking their leaders for fashion advice? That was me. And Colonel Phoenix shared some of the clown lore and traditions, such as clowns avoid eating in public when in full makeup, and a clown does not choose their own name. It is bestowed upon them by other clowns. And after our clown camp, the troop was really raring to go. We would conduct a 3 to 5 minute children's lesson each month during the Sunday service. 1, 2, or 3 junior clowns, sometimes with an adult leader clown, would perform a short skit. And though we were First United Methodist clowns, we were certainly not limited to performing only in a church setting. We viewed our ministry as an outreach and brought laughter to nursing homes, hospitals, community events, and the homebound. We also marched in parades, performing our highly crowd-pleasing precision plunger drill team. And somewhere we should have, there we go. So, as clown leaders, we've got here's 2 of our leaders, Goose and Fizzy. That's not the right one, but that's all right. 2 of the leaders, Goose and Fizzy, and I think they're with us today on Zoom. So, hey Goose, hey Fizzy, good seeing you. Get those big feet up in the air. So, and here's Susie and I. And I should say Colonel Phoenix and Professor Patches. As leaders, we felt that each event our youth were involved in helped to strengthen the bonds within the troop and the spiritual growth of each member, and by golly, we had fun. We found we didn't have to be preaching to get the message, share the love, across. One of our favorite visits was to Hope Haven, which we did several times, and Hope Haven is a residential home for the developmentally disabled. And there we were able to act silly, blow balloons. We danced and interacted with the residents. And I'll tell you what, you have never felt the joy that we felt from those residents. You know, they may have been adults in body, but their hearts and brains were pure child and pure excitement and pure love. We got hugs from every one of them, and we'd see them out at different parades and all, and they felt like we were one of their own. They just, you know, couldn't get enough of us, and it was So very, very rewarding. We did not talk about our beliefs on most of our events, but we knew upon leaving that we had surely touched lives and shared love, and it was a powerful experience and one that bonded our group as one.
I did want to mention that the group picture of the clowns that you saw did not include all of our clowns. It was just happened to be those that were there the day the photographer was. It didn't show our two sons, one of whom is here today. I don't know if he always admits he's a clown, but we're a clown family. So the more we clowned, the more we all wanted to learn about clowning. How could we refine our makeup? What are some new balloon sculptures we could learn? And more. So time for outside training. The vote was unanimous. A trip to Peoria for the International Clown Convention was too good to pass up. Yes, there is such a thing as a clown convention, and it's probably crazier than you can even picture it. Once again, our group was bonding with one another as they planned, prepared, and raised funds for a weekend getaway. Peoria was only about 90 miles from our home in Burlington, so that made it very handy. A real surprise was in store in the area of fundraising. As veterans of countless car washes, bake sales, and so on, our group was just not really expecting fundraising opportunities to come knocking at our door, but they did. Our group of clowns had so many offers to entertain at like company picnics and other events that we had to turn several down. Often companies would hire us to lead in games or races, or simply blow up balloons and just do simple sight gags. Companies were willing to pay as much as $100 for an hour or two of our services. And our only stipulation was that we be allowed to display the name of our troop and our church prominently. So here's a photo. We didn't have many photos of the clown convention. I guess we were just really busy. But here's one picture of some of the professional clowns and anybody else who chose to come there. And then another is, let's see if, yes, shopping for noses. You know, you've probably all been to conventions, and every convention has their whole vendor area. Well, this vendor area is like nothing you've seen. I mean, where else can you find size 17 polka dot shoes and light up suspenders and a whole bunch of noses to choose from? So that was really fun. And the kids were able to use some of the funds that we had, that they had earned in purchasing things for their clown outfit, which was really fun. So during our time with the clown troupe, we witnessed the connections being made and deepened among the members in our group. Gathering for times of fun and play led to bonding and relationship building. We saw how serving others, which in this particular case meant bringing smiles and laughter and joy to people, built self-esteem for the members of our group. And it was a means for experiencing spiritual growth. And we witnessed how humor could be a perfect vehicle for reaching out to others beyond our group, those with whom we shared our message. As Victor Borge has said, laughter is the shortest distance between two people.
While First UMC embraced humor in church, not all churches are willing to do so. But before we continue, I'd like to share a few examples of how some other churches managed to spread humor. And believe me, these cases of levity were totally unintentional. So with that, here's a few following statements which were published in church bulletins. Don't let worry kill you, let the church help. Okay, at the evening service tonight, the sermon topic will be What is Hell? Come early and listen to the choir practice. And this one I think was directed at me. 8 new choir robes are currently needed due to the addition of several new members and to the deterioration of several old ones. The pastor is on vacation. Massages can be given to the church secretary. Oh, before we go on, remember, I am the church secretary. And the senior choir invites any member of the congregation who enjoys sinning to join the choir. And it doesn't end there. The following church bloopers are alleged to be genuine statements written by young people about what they were learning. St. Paul cavorted to Christianity. He preached holy acrimony, which is another name for marriage. And Jesus was born because Mary had an immaculate contraption. I'm not even going to go there. But there's more to consider when we think about humor in our lives. Author and humorist Irma Weinbeck wrote, "There is a thin line that separates laughter and pain, comedy and tragedy, humor and hurt." Unitarian minister Hannah Wells gave a message on humor and spirituality several years ago at the Austin UU Church. The following is an excerpt from her sermon. Laughing and crying are two sides of the same coin. That coin we spend as the currency of healing. Although crying and laughing are two sides of the same coin, they are not interchangeable. It's more likely they each make the other one possible. We all need to grieve from time to time, but just as the good periods in life don't always stick around, neither do the bad. We're familiar with the saying, "This too shall pass." We also know the saying, "Someday you'll be able to look back on this and laugh." But to be clear, there are some losses and tragedies in life that we will never be able to laugh at. These losses are like scars. They will always hurt when we touch them. And there are many tragedies and losses in which the only means to healing is lots and lots of crying. Reverend Wells goes on to say, there are some things we will never get over and we're not supposed to. Once we accept that the scar is here to stay, it's okay when it gets touched. We can allow this grief to shape us in ways that strengthen our character, and this is how crying enough makes laughing possible. It's not that eventually we can laugh about the loss. It's that the grief allows healing, and being healed allows us to experience the goodness of life. When we permit ourselves to cry enough, we also permit ourselves to return to the other side of that coin of suffering. That life is a gift, and we are to enjoy that gift as much as possible. We can get our sense of humor back.
Sometimes a person may unexpectedly experience a moment of humor in a time of grief. It may seem inappropriate or just plain wrong. One could feel guilty even for finding humor at a time of grieving. But it can be a blessing. Laughter at that moment can be a break from reality, from pain and strain, a relief from the stress. For one moment, we might forget the sorrow. It is possible that humor is a way to cope and helps us as we begin the stages of acceptance at the end of life. Viktor Frankl, concentration camp survivor and author, who knew more than most about the depths to which humanity can sink, said, humor, more than anything else in the human makeup, can afford an aloofness and an ability to rise above any situation, if only for a few seconds. Those few seconds may be the doors that let spirituality in. So turning now to totally different types of situations that might come up not during a time of grieving, but just times in our everyday lives when things go wrong, those situations that seem really devastating at the time, but under a certain light or at a later time, we can see the irony or humor in them. Laughing at ourselves feels good and reminds us not to take ourselves too seriously. I'm sure you can all think of a time when something seemed absolutely devastating, and then later it became something to laugh at. At times, the phrase, "someday we'll look back on this and laugh," actually does turn out to be true sometimes. For an example, and I can hardly believe I'm going to tell you this, because I will say in the coming months we have our theme will be vulnerability, and so I'm stepping out and admitting to an embarrassing situation. There was a fiasco that happened when I was a young wife and mother of 2 preschoolers, and I was really excited to be preparing the Thanksgiving meal for the family and some others, some relatives, for the first time. So I won't go into detail, but to suffice it to say, when the package of stuffing calls for stuffing mix and water in an 8-to-1 ratio, they do not mean 8 cups of water to 1 cup of stuffing mix. In my inexperienced and probably sleep-deprived state, I did the reverse of what the directions called for. And I'm telling you, I resulted in this pot of soup. It was this gloppy mess. And I kept thinking, well, maybe it thickens as it cooks. I don't know. And so I was trying to ladle this into the cavity. And every time I put a spoonful, it just oozed back out. And so pretty soon others came into the kitchen, and I know it probably looked like a scene right out of a sitcom. But I was so stressed and upset, and I was near tears. But once the error was pointed out, it wasn't long before we were all laughing. And it's now a story that frequently comes up in our family and always brings laughter. In the words of Betty White, it is your outlook on life that counts. If you take yourself lightly and don't take yourself too seriously, pretty soon you can find the humor in our everyday lives. And sometimes it can be a lifesaver. At the service that was held this past fall, I think it was September, at Bevan Lee Tops, when the topic was belonging, John Fraser made a comment that really hit home for me. He said something to the effect that the feeling of belonging comes about when those shared funny stories that everyone laughs about resurface. Those stories become part of the family lore. The shared laughter in recalling these stories let you know you belong. For example, in our family, all one person has to say is, "Susie, will you be stuffing the turkey this year?" And we all laugh. In Wyman's family, and they're all about humor, I will tell you that. But in Wyman's family, we often hear, "Hey, Wyman, can you spell phonetically?" And we all crack up. And side note, I see my son laughing. It's a reference to a joke that takes a certain kind of storyteller to tell, and a joke that would be inappropriate for a service such as this. But you can ask him about it sometime. Or actually, our son has learned it too. Anyway, so it's these shared memories, these remembrances of funny events or shared stories, shared jokes that get everyone laughing. And that's when you really feel a sense of belonging. And I'm guessing most of you can relate.
Not only is humor good for our spirit and good for our soul, it is good for our health. We've known about the beneficial effects of laughter at least since 1979, and you may have heard the story about a man named Norman Cousins. This was before the internet, but his story went viral in whatever manner things go viral back then. It was Norman Cousins who, becoming discouraged and angry with his medical care and the lack of improvement in his condition, he checked out of the hospital and into a motel where he endlessly watched comedies, funny movies. Laughing many times a day, he found relief from his pain and he found healing. He later claimed he had found the key to his recovery, a powerful drug called laughter. As we were preparing for this service, an article titled "Why Cultivating Levity is Healthy" appeared in the New York Times. The main focus of the article, written by Carolyn Todd, was how humor and laughter have actual physiological effects. When you're stressed, your nervous system initiates the fight or flight response, causing a cascade of physiological effects. Your body releases stress hormones that cause your heart rate and blood pressure to rise. Your breathing becomes short and shallow, and your muscles tense. Sometimes this is helpful, and when you're in immediate danger, but often the stress response adds unnecessary discomfort to an already unpleasant situation. Over time, chronic stress can affect health. The effects of laughter, though, are quite different. There are studies linking laughter to positive changes in heart rate, blood pressure, and muscle tension. Just ask Norman Cousins. And if that weren't enough, laughter just plain feels good. So, as we all know, laughter is contagious. Let's take a healing moment.
Here, baby, eat you some beans. Take a break.
Wasn't a serious face out there, let me tell you.
A wonderful quote in the New York Times article that Wyman referenced was from Naomi Bagadonis of Stanford. Levity is a mindset. It's looking for reasons to be delighted rather than disappointed in the world around you. What a joyful way to live, a positive outlook worth cultivating, a way to acknowledge with gratitude the gifts are everywhere, if we would but look. And what impact might it have on our lives if we all lived by this mantra? We'd like to close with words from a piece titled Divine Comedy, Where Humor and Spirituality Meet by Adam Brady. In the end, we need comedy. We need humor and laughter and the joy they bring. Comedy is truly divine, for it is through laughter that we may open the doorway to the liberation of our spirit.
Our benediction comes to us today from two clown friends of mine who shared their clown prayer with us many years ago. As I stumble through this life, help me to create more laughter than tears, dispense more happiness than gloom, spread more cheer than despair, and never let me become so indifferent that I will fail to see the wonder in the eyes of a child or the twinkle in the eyes of the aged. Never let me forget that my total effort is to cheer people and to make them happy. And forget at least momentarily all the unpleasantness in their lives. And in my final moment, may I hear you whisper, when you made my people smile, you made me smile. Please join me in speaking the words for extinguishing our chalice.
We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And please rise in body or spirit, and with our hands on our hearts or holding a hand of those next to us, we sing words of blessing one to another.
We hope you will stay and join us for coffee. And we thank you for being here today.
Hi guys, we're just driving in New Mexico, and just wanted to say hi. We're not going to try to stay on because the audio is not real great. We're